Hello, hi. Welcome to FSC 2603 class. Your topic for this week is on the economic harvesting and marketing in aquaculture. Economic in aquaculture, you can divide them into macroeconomic and microeconomic and microeconomic. The macroeconomic, so this is the area where it's dealing with the efficiency of the aquaculture operation in terms of management and other factors that influence the production of the aquaculture product. For instance, type of the species that you want to raise, the cost of the feed, labor, for the facilities, and so on. And you have another part of economic, which is microeconomic, where this is the broad spectrum of the economic, um, because you have to analyze the impact of aquaculture activities, especially on the social. So the benefits that social could have from this activity, as well as the cost of establishing an aquaculture project. So it's also involved in terms of the producing policy related to aquaculture. Costs that involve in establishing and running an aquaculture project. It depends on many factors. For instance, the local economic condition, size of the aquaculture project, whether it is extensive, semi-extensive, and also intensive type of aquaculture system use, as well as of the aquaculture species. So it will be different costs if you want to raise ikan kela compared to if you want to raise catfish, as well as the system itself, whether you want to use RAS system, concrete pond, or the Eden pond, all will cost differently, as well as number of the manpower required to run the facilities. For the fish harvesting technique, facilities and handling will be largely dependent on the system. For instance, if you have a raceway system, so the harvesting can be carried out by drying partially, and the fish can be collected using the nets. Aside from that, if you have pond, um, either pond harvesting, it is also depending on the species that you raise. So this will determine whether you need to do partial harvesting or uh, total harvesting, and also how many labor that you need to carry out the process. Um, and the pond is partially drained for total harvesting, and so for the partial harvesting, about 20 to 25% of the fish we will take out from the pond that reach marketable size. Um, so harvesting is carried out when fish have reached their marketable size. And normally for aquatic species, you can start harvesting the fish between 7 to 12 months after you stock the fish. For the partial harvesting, you can do this when bigger fish. You can collect the bigger fish from the pond and by doing this, you actually allowing the smaller fish space to grow before they reach marketable size, and you can sell them at higher price. So there are two fundamental, as I said before, partial harvesting and total harvesting technique that you choose to harvest your species. So for the partial harvesting technique, if you stock different age group of the same species, or you have different species combined together in pond, or if you have species that you stock at one time but develop into different size, but even though their age are similar. So the fish are bound to mature to table sizes at different times. So you need to adopt partial harvesting, um, but you need to use appropriate mesh size so that you could select, so that you could collect only fish at the right size. Matured fish can be selected for market sale or for family consumption. And the undersized fish, if you um, capture it together, you have to return back to the pond to allow them um, to to grow to reach the marketable size before you can collect them again and sell. So among advantages that you could have when you adopt partial harvesting is you could minimal wastewater discharge into the environment because this wastewater contain together the metabolites and also waste product. You could remove larger stock, as I said before, take out the large size of the fish and keep the smaller fish to grow more, and you can get more profit out of it. And there is no production time loss because the pond is not being completely drained. Means that for the partial harvesting, if you want to reach, if the complete cycle is 12 months, means that maybe at 7 months you will have the first harvesting, 8 months, 9 months. So it means that every month after the 7 month, you can have um, you can have income um, every month until you completely harvest the fish from the pond and start the new cycle. Aside from that, you have better able to control the needs of the marketplace because you have smaller stock to be sold, and it is considered as greener approach to water conservation due to the minimal wastewater discharge. However, it is also have disadvantages where this method could increase water quality problem due to the accumulation of metabolites such as ammonia, nitrates, and nitrite. So, aside from that, you have minimal time available to repair the pond, and it is labor intensive because each time of harvesting you need a labor. So means that if you do harvesting 3 times until you complete uh, you finish all fish in the pond, means that you need labor 3 times, okay, each time of the harvesting, and high cost associated with repeated harvest. Okay, so aside from partial harvesting, you can choose for total harvest. Um, Total harvest, you always do it at the end of the cycle. Sometime when you want to collect everything, all the fish, at the end of the production cycle, or in the case of disease outbreak, whereby you have to eliminate all the species in the pond. Um, for this purpose, you need a draw net or drag net to total cropping the fish, and for you to the take care tips for the net is it should be clean and spread in the sun to dry each time after you completed the harvesting process. So this will preserve and prolong lifespan of the net. Okay, total harvesting in the pond. The advantages of this method is you have opportunity for the pond to be left fallow, time to dry, to sterilize in the sun, and also you can remove entire crop at once. It is cheaper labor compared to partial harvesting technique, because just one off you settle everything from the pond. It have less physical damage to the fish stock, and um, the advantages is a non-green approach to water conservation compared to partial harvesting. It is time intensive compared to labor intensive for the partial harvesting. You have a greater loss if stock should die during harvest or during transportation. This is because you're dealing with large amount of fish compared to when you do partial harvesting. So fish will be multiple in size, okay, different in size. There are big, there are small fish, but you take out everything from the pond, and some stock may be too small for market requirement, and because of this, you will get less income because smaller size of the species. After do the harvesting, you need to grade the fish. So this is very important because of small fish, large fish, they are different in price, and it could help to determine the price based on the size of the species that acceptable by the customer. Grading also, you could avoid cannibalism among individual in the pond, um, because when you grade the fish, you could remove larger fish, because larger fish is tend to eat the small fish size in the pond. So you you take out the fish and you reduce cannibalism. And from grading, you could also remove the unwanted fish species from the pond. For grading, you require equipment, whether you self-make or ready. You just purchase the ready-made um, tools. So you could use a grader as simple as the PVC pipe, okay, and you could also use plastic net in various mesh size. So this is particularly for the fish fry, But then if you want to breed bigger fish, you require material that is more strong material, such as aluminium or bronze rod. So for small scale grading, for small scale aquaculture production, so you may use a manual grading technique, um, but then it is time consuming and labor intensive. For in intensive scale, normally they use automated grading, which is fast and less labor, but of course it will be more expensive to buy this automated grading system. So I will provide you one video so that you could imagine how this grading process is carried out. Okay, so the next topic is on the fish preservation. So this is very important because you want to keep the fish longer. You want to extend the shelf life of the fish as maximum as you could, and you have different techniques to do this. Either you go for traditional preservation technique or modern technique, and even for the traditional technique, you have option of drying, salting, pickling, and smoking the fish. And if you want to go for modern technique, you could choose either you want to freeze it or you want to can the aquaculture product. Um, so these are the factors that you need to consider that influence the rate of drying process. So one of it is the relative humidity of the air itself, the air velocity, temperature, as well as the surface area of the fish. So you have to bear in your mind that if you have larger surface area, and it could speed up rate of the drying process. So this is the lowest cost of drying technique. If you use energy from the sun, or you could also use wind to dry this fish, and of course this is the lowest um, cost to do to to do the drying process. Aside, sorry, for you to obtain the best possible rate of drying using the sun or wind, you have to consider as well factors to speed up the process. Um, so, so air movement at ground level is usually very slow. Um, so if you rise the bed position of the fish above the ground, even by 1 meter, the air movement will be much greater. If you dry the fish at the ground level, so this will um, limit the air movement under the fish, um, and 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 drying fish above the ground on rice, slatted or mesh racks. Um, this will be better technique because it allows drying from the upper and also the lower surface. If you rise a bit um, fish position. Aside from that, you could also use mechanical dryers. So you have different type of mechanical powered dryer that you could choose that is available commercially. So fish are dried in a fan-driven airstream. So the air is usually heated, and sometimes it can be recirculated to control the relative humidity. Okay, so this is the modern method of drying. You could adopt the freeze drying. Um, so this from the freeze drying, you take out about 15% of the water content in the fish by evaporation process. So if the fish are allowed to freeze during drying, so they will not shrink and will dry with an open porous structure, so that the effect of this will maintain the quality of the fish similar to the fresh fish, although the water will not as tightly bound as in the fresh fish. For the freeze drying as well, some heat must be supplied to the fish. Um, if evaporation is to proceed at a rapid rate, moisture must also be removed from the vacuum chamber, otherwise it will become saturated and no further drying will be possible. So normally we adopt this technique for a very high value product. So advantage of this freeze dry product is that they can be stored under ambient condition and with temperature as long as the packaging is impervious to water. So another method is by using solar. So you could use solar dryers that you collect the energy from sun and concentrated it to produce elevated temperatures and increase rate of drying. And okay, this is for the salting process. Um, you could soak the fish into 10% of salt water, and this is to remove the fish blood from the. So you just let it stand for 2 hours to completely dry the fish, and the ratio is about uh, fish to salt is about 1 to 7. You can keep it uh, packet, or sometimes people keep it in the wooden box. Okay, so this is another modern technique of preservating fish. So you can eat and you apply high temperature at 110 degrees so that you could kill all the bacteria that that normally could damage the product. So fish will clean by remove the unnecessary part, for instance the head, tail, and so on. And you immediately put it on ice so that you can keep the freshness of the fish. Okay, so this is the pickling process. So this is applied on high quality and fresh fish. So by you can the pickling process only require combination of distilled water, vinegar, salt, and spices at specific ratio. And if you pickle the pickle product um, can stand for up to 6 weeks if stored at 4 degrees. Okay, this is the last technique used to preserve fish. You can apply smoking technique. But the advantage or extra point of this technique is not only can dry or preserve your fish, but then it could also adding value that you could produce a tasty fish. So you need smoking chamber. You have and you can use temperature at 80 degrees. Fish were exposed to the uniform temperature for 30 minutes. You have to keep it at 4 degrees and must be consumed within a month. Okay, this is transportation of aquaculture product, whether you have fresh aquaculture product that you need to maintain them on ice, the packaging box need to be hold on ice, and how the design of the box affected cost to for transportation, economic recycle, and need to match to the handling system of marketing channel and chain. And then you have sometimes you need to transport it through transport live species, but then you need to take account depletion of oxygen, accumulation of ammonia, and um, you have to consider concern on how to avoid this from occurs in the during the transportation. So only 5% will use air transportation. This is because of the high cost um, and, and only for the purpose of export or import, normally for the ornamental aquaculture species. And these are the factors lead to the stress of the animal, the DO, ammonia, carbon dioxide, and so on. So these require pre-nutrition step to avoid accumulation of this material because it could lead to the mortality of the species during transportation. This is the marketing of aquaculture product. So you need to consider, you need to determine the marketing channel, where you how you gonna market your aquaculture product. So this is important for you to do the business model canvas, and you need to test your business model canvas whether it is really according to your expectation. You need to do market survey in order for you to prove that your market channel is working okay. Okay, so these are the marketing strategies. You need to consider the 4 P's formula. So the place, price, promotion, and product. So the place is the location whether easily can be accessed. Um, the place also whether you want to sell it for the wholesaler, retailer, the wet market, and so on. And the price whether you want what price that you you want to sell the product, whether you want to apply discount, special discount, and so on. And promotion, how you do the promotion through digital marketing strategies, or you want um, to 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 have brochure flyers or mouth-to-mouth promotion strategies. And for the product, you need to determine value of your product, the uniqueness of your product, so that you could use it as one of the marketing strategies. Okay. Okay, so that's all for our topics today. So um, if you have any question related to this week topic, you can always go to the eCampus, to the forum channel, and drop your question there, and we can discuss further there. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, bye bye.